What up, everybody? So I was gonna make a video talking about Vic Flynn this week anyway, but I decided to go ahead and do it today so I can address a theory I saw in my comments multiple times yesterday, and even saw the same theory on social media. And that's that Tommy was expecting Vic to come for him, and that he also knew law enforcement was watching him. So because of that, he was walking around with the gun that he killed Stacey Marks with, and that's the gun that Vic took off him, and that they arrested Vic with Stacey's murder weapon. And that's why Tommy told DeFranco and his partner, Gus Paul, that he was unarmed. But this theory isn't true, because if you look close, you'll notice Tommy shot Stacey with a black automatic pistol, a 9 or something like that, while the gun that Vic took off Tommy and got arrested with was a silver revolver. So no, Tommy didn't plan on setting Vic up. Vic actually caught Tommy slipping. And even if we weren't able to tell it was a different gun, with how hot the city of Chicago was right after Tommy just killed the U.S. attorney, I don't think Tommy would just be walking around casually with the murder weapon just in case Vic tried to pull up on him and take his gun. The reason why Tommy actually told Bobby DeFranco and his partner Gus Paul that he was unarmed is so they wouldn't shoot him, because if Tommy was armed, they could have just killed him and said that he went for his gun. I also wonder if Bobby and his partner would have potentially killed Tommy if Vic wasn't around as a witness. Because as clean and by the books as they made Bobby appear to this point, I still have a hunch that he could potentially be dirty and connected to the gang the 9-7s. And that could potentially also be why he's so clean and by the books, and also why he filed for divorce from Stacey when she ran for mayor, potentially because he didn't want extra eyes and a spotlight on himself. But concerning Vic Flynn, I think that DeFranco and his partner arrested Vic and brought him in because they still have Alicia's testimony that Vic Flynn killed Colin, and they know nothing about Tommy flipping Alicia and how that was how Stacey ended up getting compromised. Keeping in mind, when Sang and DeFranco called Vic when they got off the phone, DeFranco said that he would put a bolo out on Vic. But they don't really care about charging Vic for Colin's murder like that anyways. The purpose of bringing Vic in is to try to get information out of him that's going to tie Tommy to Stacey Marks. And now that Vic has already made a move against Tommy and knows that Tommy is going to be coming for him when he gets out, and also because he knows that Tommy no longer has half the city as his army, Vic could end up telling law enforcement what he knows. He could connect Tommy to Stacey Marks through Pageant Inc. And I don't know if that by itself would be enough to make an arrest, but it would definitely be a good start. Keeping in mind that Bobby DeFranco did find Stacey's phone at the crime scene, and it only had one number in it, and that was Pageant Inc., who she had been in communication with, talking about meeting up at the same spot where Tommy killed her. But because the fact that Bobby took that phone from the crime scene, it might now be inadmissible in court. It was also revealed when Vic had his gun drawn at Tommy that Vic moved his Aunt Beth, who Tommy was using as leverage over Vic to control him. Tommy said he went by her house, so because Vic wasn't answering Tommy's phone calls, at some point Tommy must have went by Beth's house off screen to find out that Vic moved her. And before Vic got the phone call from DeFranco and found out that Stacey was killed, him and Ray were talking about leaving town, as Ray said she was going to quit her job with the DNC and Donna Jackson to work on a novel. After he found out Tommy was a lone wolf, he told Ray that she needed to get out of town immediately. So Vic has now moved all his attachments away from Chicago, similar to how Tariq moved his family away from New York, saying that it will never be safe for them there as long as he's in the life. But if Vic gets out of jail, what will his next move be? Will he go ahead and use this opportunity to finally leave town, or will he continue to try to take out Tommy? Because luckily for Vic, either though he was planning on taking Tommy out before he got stopped by the cops, and Tommy definitely isn't going to forget about that. At the same time, Tommy has other things on his mind right now and bigger problems than Vic Flynn. Number one, Tommy's currently trying to find Gennard to avenge JP's death, and he also's concerned about the Marquez cartel after they just targeted Mireya in episode 8. So Vic isn't at the top of Tommy's priority list right now. Not to mention with Vic being in police custody, he's currently out of sight and out of mind. But at the same time, Vic might not even be getting out of jail immediately either, because the fact the only reason he wasn't being put in jail and charged with the murder of Colin to begin with is because he was cooperating with law enforcement against Tommy Egan and CBI. But now that he's made an enemy out of Tommy, he's basically useless to law enforcement unless he's willing to testify against Tommy and to tell them everything he knows about Tommy and his connection to Stacey Marks. And at that point, they could potentially get Vic Flynn into WITSEC. DeFranco could even convince Vic that testifying against Tommy and putting him away for life is Vic's best opportunity to get revenge against Tommy. Also keep in mind, going back to season 2, Vic told Stacey and Bobby that he saw Tommy Egan kill Vargas, something that Vic later admitted to Stacey that he actually did. But at the time, DeFranco wouldn't let Stacey use Vic's testimony because Stacey was forcing Vic to say that. But now that DeFranco wants Tommy to pay for what he did to Stacey, that could also come back into play. There's also the fact that Vic feels like he already has enough not to just take down Tommy, but everyone that the feds want, because he gave his Aunt Beth that envelope to give to the U.S. attorney if something were to happen to him. Either though at this point I question if that envelope was just a pump fake by the writers, and if it will ever even come back into play or not, because I have no clue what Vic could actually have that would be able to not just take down Tommy, but other people as well. But when it comes to the charge for killing Colin that the feds are currently holding over Vic's head, keep in mind that that's a weak case to begin with, because their primary witness was strung out on drugs at the same time she said it was Vic trying to get out of custody, and she specifically said she saw Vic shoot Colin when she didn't. She was already gone at that point in time. Not to mention, she was even on drugs at the time when Vic and Tommy went to meet with Colin. So her testimony won't end up working at the end of the day. So if charged with Colin's murder, Vic would easily beat that case. So Vic could potentially end up in WITSEC or even leaving Chicago like him and Ray were planning on at the beginning of episode 8. But since we know that Tommy's journey is going to continue somewhere other than Chicago at the end of the series, could Vic end up returning to Chicago to take control of the North Side and redeem the Flynn legacy? Because I've been told, I didn't see this particular interview myself, that I believe they said Lennon said that we would be surprised who ends up at the top at the end of the series. So could that be Vic Flynn? Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.